Dear students, today I will teach you the summary of Areopagitica. As previously I have talked about Areopagitica, that what is Areopagitica, why is Areopagitica written, and what were the things that made John Milton, write Areopagitica. Okay, like what were the factors that he had been compelled to write Areopagitica. I have been discussed these sort of things in the previous lecture, but still you will come to know while summarizing Areopagitica that what were the main reasons. It's been written in detail, like this summary is a very detailed one, so you will be able to understand each and everything about Areopagitica and its consequences as well, like what's been there after writing it, what he felt. Okay, Milton says that he is going to address the British Parliament on a subject which is likely to promote the public good. He feels that he is at the beginning of a very serious and responsible task, and so he is feeling mentally agitated. He is not sure that what the results of his appeal will be. While writing his address, he is swayed by feelings of hope as well as fear. He hopes that he will, this is not be, this is he will promote the public good, and he has confidence in his capacity to move the house. The thought that he is addressing the High Court of Parliament has created tremendous enthusiasm in him. Dear students, you should know that Milton wrote this Areopagitica as an address to the British Parliament, which like the British Parliament, as you know, that they give a licensing order. So Milton was against that, and he wanted British Parliament to cancel the licensing order and to promote the public good. Okay, so he was as you know that it was quite a responsible and serious task, so he was feeling fear, and as well as he was having hope as well, that it might have some good consequences, some good results, but he was also feeling fear that it might result in bad. Okay, like it might have some bad consequences. Okay, so but he was confident, he was too confident to move the parliament, to move the house. Okay, so he addressed that with a great enthusiasm, with a great enthusiastic style. He presented his address. Okay, so now look at here. He is full of enthusiasm and full of joy because he is doing something to promote the liberty of his country. We should not expect to have the type of civil liberty in which nobody will have any grievance at all, but it is true civil liberty when the complaints of the citizens are freely heard, seriously considered, and speedily redressed. The very fact that he is able to address Parliament shows that they have won a large part of this liberty. This is a great achievement because this liberty was won after the political tyranny and spiritual superstition imposed on them by the start kings. Even the Romans, who were known for their manliness, could not have won freedom so soon after a tyranny such as theirs. Okay, such as their, not their, but rather theirs. Okay, they have been able to win this freedom because of the grace of God and the guidance and wisdom of Parliament. Milton thinks that there is nothing wrong if he gives a high praise to Parliament for its praiseworthy actions. Dear students, you should know that look at the Milton's tactics that he uses over here. He first of all he praises the actions of the Parliament in order to make them hear him. Okay, like to make the Parliament hear John Milton. He, for that cause, he first praises them, then he says what he want to say. Okay, in fact, they deserve much more praise than he is giving them. Look at the exaggeration of John Milton. Here he is going to exaggerate that Parliament needs much more praise than he is praising the Parliament, and it is for the sake in order to make them listen, to make the Parliament listen to John Milton and to consider his plea for the licensing order that he want to abolish. Okay, so it's clear crystal. Okay, it's easy, so I am reading it that okay, he is offering sincere praise and should not be accused of flattering them. And look at here, like it's been written that he is giving, we should not accuse him for flattery, that he is just flattering, but it's a sincere praise. Okay, then look at here, three things are necessary for praise to be sincere. Number first is the person being praised should deserve the praise. The person being praised should have the qualities attributed to him. The third is the person offering the person okay, the praise should be fully convinced that the person who is praised deserves the praise. In these respects, his praise is sincere. Okay, these are the three requisites or criteria for the praise. If someone wants to praise another person, so he should consider these three things, that the person being praised should deserve the praise. Like the person you are praising, the person who is being praised must deserve that praise. Okay, so then it would not be considered as flattery. The second is that the person being praised should have the qualities attributed to him, like the quality you are praising. Okay, like as John Milton is praising the qualities, the actions of the Parliament, so these things must be there. Like they should not be something that they are not there and you are just praising them. Okay, so this is the second one, and the last one is that the person offering the person offer. Okay, this is repeated. Okay, the person, this should be not considered, these two words. Read from there. Okay, the person offering the praise should be fully convinced. If you it means that if you are praising someone, okay, he should be fully convinced, he should be motivated that the person who is praised deserves the praise. He should be motivated that you deserve this praise. Okay, in these respects his praise is sincere. So if we consider these three aspects of the praise, so John Milton is sincere with the Parliament in praising it. It's not a flattery. A person who describes eloquently the noble actions of others and is not afraid to describe with equal freedom what could have been done better is not a flatterer but a sincere admirer. It's all about John Milton, that he is not just flattering, but rather he is sincere admirer of the parliament while praising the parliament. If he proves by argument that it would promote the cause of truth, learning, and liberty, if the ordinance imposing licensing of books is revoked, okay, it would not mean condemning parliament. It's not just condemning parliament, but rather it's a kind of if it's a praise, a kind of praise, that, and it's a kind of advice to the parliament. He is doing this in the confidence that parliament is more pleased with public advice than other rulers have been with public flattery. Okay, he is making it clear. Okay, if this ordinance is rescinded, okay, so this is rescinded, rescinded, okay, it means cancel, okay, it's cancelled, it over here means cancelled. If this ordinance is cancelled or rescinded, it will show the contrast between the magnanimity of Athenian parliament and the arrogance of ecclesiastical and civil administrator, like the Lord and Strafford, who held sway so far, like they were not considering it much. Okay, Milton is not afraid of criticizing as act of parliament, because the members of this body imitate the liberal culture and civilization of Greece, where freedom of thought was permitted. Actually, over here you can see that in the previous lecture I also talked about this, that the John Milton also mentioned the Greek civilization and the Greeks and the Latins, that they had freedom of thought, so we should also have. Why not we? Okay, we are not better than them. They were better than us, and they were having the permission to freely talk. So why not we should have freedom of thought? Okay, it is because they have followed the culture, wisdom, and literature of Greece, that they are far more civilized than their forefathers. Okay, it's been explained, the Goths and the Jutes of the Middle Ages, like they were more civilized than them. So, and their culture, wisdom, and literature that they were following, so they were much more civilized, and because of that they give a freedom to the speech. He takes the example of a Socrates, who from his own house wrote an oration addressed to the parliament of Athens, in which he advised them to change their pattern of democracy and make it more severe. In those days, persons who devoted themselves to intellectual pursuits and the art of oratory were listened to with honor. Okay. Not only in their own cities and districts, but even in other lands, and changes in laws were made according to their advice. Okay. Therefore, Socrates was one of those orators, and he also gives suggestions to the parliament of the Greece at that time, and as he knew that changes could be made on my suggestions and my criticizing them or criticism. Okay, Milton says that Greece is the land of sunshine, which is very good for the blossoming of genius. He has lived in the cold climate of England, but he has trained his mind by study. He is therefore not much inferior to the orators of Greece, but the British Parliament is far superior to the assemblies who listen to the Greek orators, not to he. Okay, it is to the. Okay, this is not he, rather it is the Greek orators. They will prove their greatness if they listen to reason and repeal the act regarding the licensing of books passed by them earlier. Okay, Milton is confident that Parliament will be willing to listen to every reasonable suggestion. He therefore wishes to request them to consider the ordinance passed by them to regulate the printing of books. He has no objection to that part of the order which ensures copyright to the authors and publishers on their books, or provides for payment of money for the maintenance of the poor. It means that he is praising some good aspects of the ordinance, and he is also not saying that the whole ordinance is completely objectified, or that is a kind of piece of criticism, but he is saying some aspects should be verified, okay, should be considered. He objects the clause which provides, look at, okay, you should consider this point, okay, that Milton is considering the main point, the main thing, and he wants the government, the parliament, to consider the main, the one of the main clauses which provides that no book or pamphlet or paper will henceforth be printed unless it has first been approved by a certain number of persons who will be appointed by Parliament for this purpose, or by at least one of them. Okay, so he was actually, John Milton was not against the whole ordinance, the whole licensing order, rather thing, but he was only objecting the one class of the ordinance that was having the statement that pamphlet or paper henceforth be printed unless, he wanted the government to remove this clause, only to consider the clause that this should not be there in the ordinance. There are some good aspects of the pamphlet of the ordinance that he wants to say as well, but this one he criticized. Okay. In this discourse, he wants to point out the harm that licensing will do to the nation. He wants to say that this licensing order will make the nation suffer. It is a harm for the nation. He will try to show that the inventors of the licensing of books were the papists who were responsible for all the cruelties of the Inquisition. Next, he purposes, he was having the purpose to describe what is to be thought of books in general. Then he will try to prove that this order will not suppress the type of books which it intended to suppress, namely books which spread scandals or preach disloyalty to the state or damage the reputation of others. Finally, he will show that this order will discourage learning and suppress all truths. Okay. He wanted to say that if some of the people are there and they are made as judges for the or critics for criticizing something or for knowing that whether this is good or bad and the bad should be removed and this should be considered. Okay, so he wants to say that if you made such sort of thing, so it will make the truth and the learning suppressed. Okay, it will abolish learning, it will discourage learning. Okay, the government must keep a watch eye over books as it does over men. Publishers of bad books must be punished because books are not dead things. Okay, he made it very simple over here that as the government keep a watchful eye on over human beings or men, so so the government should also keep a watchful eye over books as well. Publishers of bad books must be punished. Look at his statement. Because books are not dead things, they are just like human beings. They are powerful agents for good or evil. They contain the essence of the intellect and wisdom of the person who produced them. One has to be very cautious about suppressing a book. Killing a good book is worse than killing a man. Look at the statement. As in the previous lecture I talked about this, it's really a great statement. He who kills a man kills a reasonable creature whom God made in his own image. But one who destroys a good book kills reason itself, which is the highest gift of God to man. Okay, this is really very interesting argument given by John Milton to the Parliament. Good. We should be very cautious when taking action against books. If a good book, if a great book is suppressed, it is like killing a great man. It kills reason itself, but he does not want to be condemned for advocating license, like lawlessness. Okay, he is not going to advocate lawlessness while he opposes the licensing of books. He would review the history of licensing and show that this idea was originated by the Inquisition and was picked up from there by the English bishop, and has now been adopted by some of the Presbyterians. Okay, in Athens, which was the chief center of literature and culture in Greece, only two types of books were suppressed. Okay, this is not rather were suppressed. Either blasphemous, and the second was, okay, it was either blasphemous and atheistical books, or those which defamed living personalities by name. So atheistic, a means no, thea mean God, astical mean which is related to atheism. Like those atheism mean the doctrine which believes that there is no God, there is no existence of God. So atheistical books, those books which contains atheism, were suppressed and condemned. And the second was those like the second book was the kind of book which defames the living personalities, like those who are living, those who are alive, and their names are mentioned in the books and they are defaming them. So these kind of books were banned, they were suppressed. Thus the books of Protagoras were burnt. This is not Protagoras, this is Pythagoras. Okay, were burnt, and he was banished from the city because he openly preached atheism. Okay, they took no okay this is Protagoras. Yes, now I remember, the Pythagoras was another one. This was Protagoras, and he was an atheist, and he wrote about atheism, and he preached atheism. He was a preacher of atheism. They took no notice of books of other sects, and even of those who advocated sensual pleasures and denied that God was merciful. Okay, the Greeks did not suppress any sect or opinion. They did not take any action against Epicurus, who defined happiness is pleasure, and or against Aristippus, who preached that pleasure was the end of life. Nor did they suppress the immoral plays of old comedians. Okay, he is exemplifying, John Milton is exemplifying various people, and he is also exemplifying over here is you see that Protagoras was banned and his books were burned. Okay, but he is also exemplifying, he is also mentioning the people who wrote about the pleasure, like their like the things which were quite of high consideration. They were like, they were published, they were not banned, they were not burned. Okay, as for the other leading city of Greece, Sparta, there was no need of the licensing of books among them, because they cared for nothing except brave deeds of war. They disliked all writing except their terse, pithy sayings and soldierly ballads. Okay, like John Milton is also exemplifying Sparta. There was no need of this kind of licensing order. Okay, the early Romans, like the Spartans, were trained to become rough for wars. They knew very little of learning beyond their legal code called the 12 Tables. They only suppressed libellous books which openly condemned others. Okay, this is another example. And books which showed contempt of their gods. Dear students, you should know that actually these are the arguments and examples given by John Milton in Areopagitica to the parliament, and he wants to compel the government, he wants to compel the parliament to consider the ordinance and to modify it, and to modify the class of the licensing order. And he is exemplifying, and he is also giving various examples of the Romans and the Greeks and their works as well. The Roman government was so tolerant that they did not take any action against Lucretius, although he included in his chief poem an exposition of the philosophy of Epicurus. Emperor Augustus did not take any action against Livy, although in his history of Rome, he favored the party of Pompey, which was opposed to the party of Caesar. Okay, that is Caesar, rather, not Caesar. That is Caesar, the uncle of the emperor. From that time onward, there was only tyranny in the Roman Empire, and good as well as bad books were suppressed. But in Greece, And in the early days of Roman Empire, only libellous and blasphemous books were suppressed. He is actually exemplifying this in order to tell the government, to tell the parliament that this is not tyranny. Okay, this is not tyranny as at the time of the Romans there was at a specific time, at the time of the Emperor Augustus. Okay, like at that time it was, there was a tyranny, a kind of tyranny, that the books were, some of the books were suppressed. But in Greece and Roman, there was no book that was suppressed except the libellous and the blasphemous. So here John Milton also gives a kind of suggestion that yes, there should be licensing order only for the blasphemous and for the libellous books, not for all kind of. Okay, all other books were allowed to be freely written, circulated. Okay, at the beginning of the 4th century AD, the Roman emperors became Christians. They did not become more strict in dealing with books. The books of the grand heretics, like heretics means Christians who did not agree with the policies of the Pope, were scrutinized and they were judged, and then the things were verdicted. And if they were found to be dangerous, they were condemned in the meanings of the General Council and then prohibited or burned under the authority of the emperor. The writings of, look at this also, he is also exemplifying the Roman emperors when they became the Christians. So what happened at that time? He is like John Milton is also going back to the history of the books which were scrutinized and which were considered by the heretics, and look at them, that he is saying that yes, they were considering them, they were condemning them, and they were burning the books only when they were found dangerous. Okay, the writings of heathen authors. Heathen authors mean pagans, who were pagans, were however not interfered with. Okay, this was changed in 398 AD when the Fourth Council of Carthage forbade the reading of the heathen books even by the bishop. Okay, you should know that the writing of the heathen authors were however not interfered. Okay, you should know that even they became Christians, and even they were they became Christians, but still they did not interfere. Okay, they did not interfere, and they did not criticized, or they did not burn the books written by the heathens. Okay, they were not only just read by them. The council used to declare which books were not good and did not go any further. Only the council only announced that which books are not good. Okay, they just said that. They did not burn or abolish or do anything to the books. They just declared that these books are good and they are bad. Okay, after 800 AD, the popes started exercising greater control over books. After this, the popes started prohibiting and burning the books which they did not like. Okay, you should know that till 800 AD, the books were published. They were not criticized as after the 800 by the popes. Okay, and he is actually saying that look at the people of the Greece and the Rome, like the look at the Greeks and the Romans, they are much more intellectual because they expressed their thoughts. They were not banned, they were not suppressed, their books were not burned. But after the 800 AD, the popes started burning the books. The pope started prohibiting the bad books or the books which were against the church or something. In the beginning, only a small number of books were banned. Then Pope Martin V, who was born in 1417 and died in 1413. No, he was not died. Rather, he ruled at this time on the church, prohibiting the reading of all heretical books, and ordered that anyone reading them would be excommunicated from the church. He will not come to the church after if someone reads the heretical books. Okay. The reason for this greater strictness was that reformers like Wycliffe and Huss were condemning the abuses and corruption of the dignitaries of the Roman Catholic Church. This frightened the papal court and then started taking strong measures against books which were supposed to be heretical. Okay, you should know that the Wycliffe translated Bible from Latin, and actually the Latin was first it was first in the language. I just forgot, but then it was translated it was first in the Hebrew language. You should know that the Bible was first in Hebrew language, then it was translated to Latin, and Wycliffe was the person who translated Bible into English, and he was blamed and he was stoned. Even he was stoned. Okay. Pope Leo the 10th, Pope from 1513 to 1521. Okay, he was rule at this time. He was having rule over a church. Okay, he was Pope at that time, and his successors followed this policy. The Council of Trent, which met between 1545 and 1563, and the Spanish Inquisition. This is an Inquisition. Okay, you should know this. Okay, the Spanish Inquisition, working together, started drawing a list of books which were not to be read by the faithful. You should know that the Spanish inquiry, like the Inquisition or inquiry, working together, like they worked together, started drawing list of the books which were not to be read by the faithful. Okay, they made a list. Okay, the papal court and the papal court and the Inquisition finally decided to order that no book, pamphlet or paper could be printed unless it was first approved and licensed under the signatures of 2 or 3 priests. Okay, they seemed to feel that Saint Peter had delegated to the Pope not only the key of heaven but also the keys of the press. Milton gives a sample of the remarks of the priests who have read the book and the final order giving permission for the book to be printed. This is very great. John Milton also provided a sample of the remarks of the priest that they approved the book and they signed that book. Okay, he also give an example to the court that this was there at that time. The papal court thought that if 4 priests examined a book before it was printed, all satanic influence would be removed from the book. It was, look at this, the papal court at that time, they consider that if four priests examine the book before its printing, it will be removed, like the satanical things, the things which have elements of satanic influence will be removed. Okay, thus the licensing of books was started by the Pope and his followers. Some of the books licensed by them bear as many as 5 signatures of the licensors on the title cover. This system of tyrannizing over human thought was liked by the authorities in England in the days of Charles I. The Archbishop of Canterbury and the Bishop of London were given the authority to examine all books and permit them to be printed if they approved of them. The system was imitated from the Roman Catholic Church to such an extent that the word giving permission to print, okay, imprimatur, okay, it was given. Oh, it's really very disgusting that at that time no one was allowed to publish book before it is being signatured or signed. Okay, this word, the imprimatur, was used in Latin. It seemed as if the learned bishop knew only and could not use the vulgar tongue English for such an important work. But Milton's idea is that the English language, which is the language of the people who are great lovers of liberty, could not provide enough Slavish words to translate a dictatorial and arrogant word imprimatur into English. Look at this, that English was also considered a vulgar language. Okay, it's really very disgusting. Thus the system of licensing of books was invented by the Pope and his followers. It had never been heard of in any ancient state or church. Students, note that this is not the ancient, rather it is the ancient. Ancient means ancient, okay, ancient state or church. It's misspelled, okay. Nor is it to be found in any English law, ancient or modern. Look at this, that John Milton give examples of the Greek, Romans, and also of England and the church and the Pope and the bishops, etc., of all those people, of the priest, of the books which were published and which were not published, which were banned and which were approved. All of these are exemplified by John Milton over here in his pamphlet. Okay, and he wants to tell the parliament that look at these examples, what happened to them, and they are seemed as if they are making a blunder, like the people who are burning the people, and they are considered as immature. Okay, those who are burning the books and those who are not permitting to express their thoughts, they are being criticized by John Milton and actually exemplified to the church, to the parliament. It is not to be found in any modern state which has followed the course of the Reformation. It originated from the most anti-Christian Council of Trent and the most tyrannical court, the Spanish Inquisition. Okay, actually the licensing order and these kind of things started from the Spanish Inquisition, from the Spanish inquiry of the books and he also gave this history of the licensing order to the parliament in order to make them understand that it's before this there was no such licensing order, and you should modify it if you are going to do it. If you are just if you are still if you are giving the licensing order, if you are giving this ordinance, you should consider this, that only blasphemous books are the books which are against someone who is living, who is alive. So you should only give a kind of licensing order against those books. You should only forbid and prohibit those kind of books, not all sort of books. And you should modify this clause of the ordinance. Okay, up to the time of the Inquisition, up to the time of Inquisition, books were allowed to come into the world as freely as human children. Okay, it's a good example given. The Roman Catholic Church devised this method of thought control because they were troubled by the Reformation. The Anglican clergy and the Presbyterians have adopted this system from Rome. But some persons might say that the inventors of the system were bad, but the system might be good. The idea of licensing was not something very difficult to think of. Earlier rulers must have thought of it, but they did not adopt it because they thought that the system was bad. A bad tree can bear only bad fruit. Look at this. He criticized it in such a way that a bad tree can bear only bad fruit. If the government is bad, so the people would be bad. The papist's brain is a bad tree. Okay, the papists banned them, like the people, and they banned the expressing of thought of the individual. So he is just saying that they have bad thoughts and their brain is a bad tree which can only yield dangerous fruit. Now he wants to consider whether it is useful or harmful to read all types of books, good or bad. Okay, Moses, Daniel, and St. Paul were thoroughly acquainted with the books of the Egyptian and Babylonians and the Greeks. Look at this. He criticized them all. Look, it's really very beautifully mentioned and exemplified that look at these great people, Moses, Daniel, and St. Paul, who were acquainted, who has read the books of the Egyptians and the Babylonians and the Greeks. St. Paul did not think it unholy, that it is not something unholy to include some maxims from three Greek poets in the Holy Scripture itself. He is exemplifying Saint Paul, that he even give examples from the Greek poets in the Holy Scriptures, and it is not unholy to exemplify in the Holy Scripture. Look at the statement he made. Emperor Julian, the cleverest enemy of Christianity, ordered that Christians must not read heathen authors. This was a calamity for Christians because they ran the risk of declining into ignorance. But luckily, the law lapsed with the death of Julian within 2 years. To be deprived of Hellenic learning was thought to be a great persecution than the open cruelty of the other emperors. Okay, it is said that an angel asked Saint Jerome in a dream not to read Cicero. Okay, Cicero. But Milton thinks that it might have been the devil who asked the saint not to read Cicero. It is said it's a story of the Saint Jerome. He said once in my dream there came an angel and talked to me not to read the book of Cicero. But Milton says over here that and thinks that this might be a devil and the devil might have been made itself as an angel, and the devil might have asked this saint not to read the Cicero. An angel was likely to have rebuked him for reading Plautus or not, and not Cicero. Good, okay. Milton says that if we are to be guided by visions, we may as well consider a vision of Dionysius, Bishop of Alexandria. God said to him in a vision, "Read all books which come into your hands, because you are competent to exercise your reasons and judgment in the matter." Milton says that the example of the Saint Jerome should be compared with the example of the vision of Dionysius, who was the bishop of Alexandria, that the God himself, like he said to him in a vision, in a dream, that read every kind of books and you are competent to judge which kind of book is good and which is not good and which is bad. Okay, this was in accordance with the advice of the Saint Paul, who said this was in accordance with the advice of the Paul, who said test all things and then stick to what seems good to you. Saint Paul also says that you should test everything and then consider, then you should eat the sweet one. Okay, you should first test it. Okay, you should know whether it is good or bad. You should read every sort of books till to know that is it bad or good. Okay, you are the one who can judge something, that whether it is good or bad. Okay, God gave the widest choice to man regarding his food, accepting only that he should exercise moderation for the sake of his health. God's intention was that every mature man should exercise his reason and power of understanding in the choice of books. Even a bad book is useful to an intelligent man. He can refute its false argument. Okay, I think this is sufficient for today, as I think almost 1 hour lecture is being made and it's 16 pages. You can see over here at the right corner of the lecture. So inshallah, in the next lectures I will talk about the rest of the summary, that what has been there in the book of John Milton. Thank you for listening me.